Alright guys, so a little shout out to BMS air filters back there, right? We got this to fit in here. This is just the rough prototype bracket. We're going to make a pretty bracket next. We had a pretty bracket made up for the other fan with the Setrab. So this crease right here that I'm putting dead center, the two black, one's kind of a dull black, the other one's kind of a shiny black. That's where the fan is up against the Setrab, and that bolt that you see actually goes through the fan. The fan has a harness, a loop that bolt goes through. And this black piece in the car actually dives right there. It dives perfectly. Once we get a pretty bracket made up, it's gonna be pretty unbelievable. So we've only got one bolt in up here. Obviously two can go in. That's not the issue. And then same thing on this side. You can see the Setrab up against the fan, airtight. And pardon this, we ran out of material because we had to shift the whole thing to the right a couple inches, so I had to undo a couple of my bends and then rebend, and I ran out of material. So right now that screw is just holding the Setrab above that tab. And then same thing on this side. It's not pretty, but at least we actually drilled a hole on that side. But here's what's really impressive. Let's see. Everything fits. And once you see this with the nose off, and you see one in person, you're not going to believe that it fits. And there's still a gap between. Okay, so we're going up in the triangle here. You can see the Setrab up there, the big boy. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I'm going to stick this up in here. And you can see, so right now that Setrab is actually against the car, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, but I don't think I am. I think that the Setrab is against the car, so I have two options. I can either trim the corner of the Setrab and round it off nice, or I can put some sort of a pad there to buffer the Setrab from basically cutting through the front of the car, because that's what's going to end up happening. The fan, we had to do a lot of intricate trimming on the fan, but it does not interfere with the fan blades. It doesn't go far back enough to affect the fan blades, but this has just been a lot of work to get this fan to work on this cooler. But this is the fan to use, because the problem is if you go to a smaller diameter fan, then these loopholes that you see no longer, and this loophole will be fastened around the cooler up to the top, so everything will be against there tight. But frankly, you're not going to get this thing to move if you wanted to where it's at. So we have the brake duct out, but the brake duct will fit. This is all designed with the brake duct fitting. Let's see here, there's another light already in here. So it doesn't really matter that it's nighttime, because even during the daytime you wouldn't be able to see in here very well. So you can see that Setrab's in there. There's a good couple inches in front of the Setrab. If you cut a hole in the front of the car, obviously that Setrab is going to be right there. It's going to be nice. You know, if you do get one of the ducts, and that'll be the next thing. Hopefully people realize that we need some aftermarket front ends that have some ducts in them. Some people are putting them together. I think ACS is putting together a nice front end for the cars. We'll see what happens. But there's where the brake duct is, and you can see the brake duct does not interfere with the Setrab or the fan. So let's see here if we can see anything from this way. I don't know. This is a big fan, guys. This is 25 amps. Flows over 1,000 cubic feet per minute. Okay, so you're gonna be okay. Now, one of the things I thought about, and I want to point this out while I'm in here. Let's see if my finger comes through. There it is. Okay, so if a person wanted to, I don't know if you would want to cut a hole over here on the side of the plastic duct to let air come in, And then what would happen is that air would get sucked around to the front of the cooler, because this fan is a polar fan, and therefore that fan is going to be sucking a massive amount of air through that cooler. Another thing that we're going to do is we're going to trim. Okay, let's see here. We are going to trim some of this floor is going to get trimmed away, because we've realized that all it's doing is it's keeping the air from being able to escape underneath. So right now the floor is still untrimmed on this car, but we will be trimming it, because right here's basically the only hole up through there, and it's just not gonna cut it for what we need to do. So you can see the air intake up there, and then the fan up behind, or in front of that I should say. So this hole is just not large enough for the air to be evacuated. So we're going to trim away a little bit of this floor in a very careful manner. And if someone were to question you later, if you were to take this kit off the car and put the car all back to stock, and someone were to question you later why you had this trimmed, you could just say, oh, you know, I wanted to let everything breathe a little bit better because my air intake is up in there. But I do want to point out that is the stock air intake, and it's still intact. We did not destroy it. So it's going to be interesting. Something else that I haven't really looked at yet since I've done this, but the Faster Proms, I think, has an intake that goes down here in this triangle and goes up. It would be possible to somehow plumb up to that intake, but while we're talking, what a person can also do is, and I forget who pointed this out on the forum to us, but this air box can actually be trimmed right up here. This plastic can be trimmed, and that'll actually allow air to be able to get into the intake from that side, and you could just seal it off from the bottom. That way it's not inhaling the warm air that's coming out of that oil cooler. The oil cooler, that fan is going to be on a thermostat, so it's pretty exciting. For those of you who've never seen inside here and are curious how your air gets into your air filter, let's see here what I can show you. There it is. There's the intake that it comes up through. I'm going to back up here. That's definitely as tight as it looks. So all the air that's coming into your car stock has to come up through this little crack. So a lot of people, where I'm tapping, they cut this all away. They cut away this triangle. And that's the thing about our kit, is technically if you were to say, oh, I trimmed something, you could just be saying that you're trying to get more air to the air box if you do end up trimming this stuff. But I just wanted to point that out, that if you did trim it from the top, okay, now remember where that hole is right there on the top side, okay? So then when we come around, there's that hole. So then if you go right there, there's your air box, okay? That's this piece right here, right above the air filter. So it's going to be pretty interesting here, but we're not worried about that just yet, one thing at a time. We're pretty excited that we got the fan, and you can see the bolts, and then those two different color blacks is the fan butted up against the Setrab. The fan butted up against the Setrab. And again, this is all just a real prototype ugly bracket. We're going to get a better bracket made up now that we know where all the holes need to be. The bracket hangs on top of the tab and also below the tab. So this bracket's actually very stable. If I try to I mean, it doesn't budge. Nothing here moves. It's rock solid. and that's with only one bolt there. It's just the way that we designed the bracket and we designed everything.